It's different from a local realtor,
Yeah,
investors buying the same rehab house in the same block where we're not,
exactly.
a lot of times where like your yield may be different, your goal may be different. Maybe you want the property. Maybe you're
Yeah.
into space to get the
Right.
property back and rent it out where I have no interest in that stuff, right?
Right.
But some people are like, listen, I want to do that to get this and get that. Maybe you're doing it by yourself and you don't need the 15, 20% yield. Maybe
Yep.
8 makes sense for you and you can beat me on certain deals, right? So it all depends on what your angle is. Maybe you're buying for your IRA, which again, as long as you beat the market, you're okay with it.
Yeah, and see, Dave, you just brought up, because I was just going to talk about that, because and that's where you have to figure out like what your money costs are too,
Mhm.
because if you're borrowing money at 6%, you need to get at least 12%. If you're 8%, you got to get 16%.
Yeah.
So that kind of dictates, the kind of yield that you want. But if you are buying it in your self-directed IRA, I mean, a simple 8%, 9% is sufficient. I mean, it's like, where else are you going to make a 9% return
Yeah.
secured by a tangible asset? And I'm like, I'll take that all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have 2 questions before we get to LinkedIn's question from Rodney. Have you ever bought or sold a partial? And what, we'll start there. Go ahead. Would you have bought or sold a partial before?
No, I have never bought or sold a partial. I've had made many offers on partials.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you care how many years are left in a note when you go to buy it? If it's 1 year or 20 years, does that change your?
Yeah, I like to see it have a little bit of time left on it, because and once again, it kind of goes back to where you're buying it. If you're buying it in your self-directed IRA, if it has a couple years on it, and if I get it at a pretty good rate, if I'm making 9-10%, I'm totally fine with that. But if I'm buying it outside my self-directed IRA and I have 6% like money cost or something, then I'll have to get like a 12% return on that. And then oftentimes I've got to cash out my investor 2 to 3 years. I need to make sure there's enough on that back end to where I get cashed out, pay him off or her off, and then have a little bit of profit on the back end. So that's where you need to look at where you want to buy it, your money cost, and how long do you want to hold on to this thing for? Because all of that comes into effect on these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So the question comes from Rodney from our LinkedIn Live is great for those who can help, but what's your experience been for those who couldn't or had to foreclose? I'm not sure exactly what that question is referring to, but I guess is how difficult is it to foreclose on somebody, and what's that, if you've done it before, what are some of the pitfalls of that?
Thank God I have not had a foreclose on anybody. So, and it's one of the things that, and if you do, you have people and places and systems and, in place, you just reach out to the attorney in that state. Or a lot of times, a lot of these notes are in the process of being foreclosed. And if you can't get them back on track, you just reach out to the attorney that actually started the foreclosure and just, kind of pick up where they left, where the previous borrower left off.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I have had to foreclose on people, and the vast majority of the time I'm foreclosing on a property. It's a vacant property. They've already moved on. They've passed away, whatever. So the vast majority of the time it's an empty property. So I'm just foreclosing on the property, not a person. Every once in a while I do have to foreclose on a person. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
I hate it. But at the same time, I can't do nothing.
Yep.
So we've got to move forward in one way or another. And if foreclosure is the way that it needs to go, then it needs to go that way. And as much as I really don't like doing that, it is part of the business, and that's something that you're going to.
And you said before that you've had people cry when they're excited. I've also had the opposite side where people are crying, "Don't foreclose on me."
Yeah.
And can you do a mod? And the problem is, I can't mod someone who lost half their income or 3/4 their income, because
Right.
I had a situation where the husband got sick and injured, 14, 15, and he was a breadwinner. He got injured, could not collect anything. He was collecting disability. He went from making a lot of good money to making nothing, and they could not keep the house financially. And I'm not here, as much as I want to help, I can't help the situation. The financials don't change anything. And they just couldn't make the deal happen for them, and they cried, and I felt bad, but at the same time, I'm still a business, still investor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gabe, I won't put it in there, but Gabe mentioned he foreclosed on almost every note he's bought. Oh, Gabe. The next one I'll let Nathan ask from Facebook.
Yeah, this is Gene Davis. He's asking, what's the typical time frame that you tell your lenders that you'll have their funds tied up for?
I tell them between 24 to 36 months.
Yeah, I think that's a good time frame.
And what do you do at the end of it? Do you cash out? Do you sell the note? What's your kind of game plan for that?
Yeah, it's either I'll cash them out if I want to hold on to the note. For example, the South Carolina one, I think I'm going to cash my particular investor out just because, the personal relationship that I have with this borrower, but yeah, typically, 2 to 3 years, I'll just go ahead and just sell the note and then, get the money out, cash that person out and ask them if they want to play again. And if they want to invest the money again, and then we'll do another round.
And that's a good time frame. And for people that are kind of getting started, just some of the reasoning behind that, and Larry, tell me if this is right, but this is where my mind goes, is let's say you've got a 30-year amortized note and it's 3 years in. So then you buy it at 27 years left on the note.
Yep.
The amount of principal being paid off is still very, very low.
Yep.
So 2 or 3 years from now, when I go to resell that note, that principal balance is still quite high. So it makes it much, much easier for me to resell it.
Yep. 100%. And that's the other thing with these, when you modify the notes, you start the clock from zero again. So, right. 24 years, 30 years. And it's just like, that note, that's modified. It was modified last year. It started from zero. Right. Yeah. And so I can, that's a conversation I'm going to have with my investor. Do you want to, it's coming up on 2 years. Do you want to, get cashed out, or, you want to leave it in for another 2 years?
Right. Right.
And on that one, there's a lot of time because the principal is not, it's very little that's being paid down. And that's where, somebody was asking about the length of the term. That's where that comes into account, specifically on your exit strategy. If you're buying it in your self-directed IRA, it's, to me, it doesn't matter because I'm buying it. If I get a discount, if I get my yield, they can just totally cash me out. But if I'm using somebody's money, I got to be cognizant of that to make sure that I have enough on the back end when I go to sell this thing. And then I also try to figure out if somebody's looking for like a 10, 11, or 12% yield on that money, 2 to 3 years down the road, what kind of position is that going to put me in? Am I going to be in a negative position? Do I have to come out of pocket, or am I at a pretty good position? So right. you 100% have to look at all that.
Yeah. All of that goes into it. So there's a lot that goes into it. So
again, if you haven't done this before, I would definitely talk to people who have. Yeah. Before you jump into it. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Larry had experience before with buying real estate. So this avenue of getting capital is very carefully done, right?
Right.
Just be careful what you do. But at the same time, the only way sometimes to learn is by doing, which kind of stinks. Yep. But you got to learn it because you're going to run out of your own capital. Unless you're done really, really well, which is great. You're going to run out of capital. You can go multiple ways. The way Larry's doing, you have to be real careful. Nathan has a fund that he has SEC regulated. And then I have private capital that I have a partner with. We have capital. We have plenty. So in that kind of aspect, you need capital in the space. The one thing that sucks is when you do foreclose, you're not bringing any money in and you're kind of putting money out. You're constantly either A, asking for all this money up front, or B, asking for a draw every time you need to pay an attorney.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. When I look at when I get the tape in, I preferred occupied assets. So that way I can, and especially if they've made the payment within the last couple of years, or a payment within the last couple of years, at least they've made some attempt to make a payment. then I look at that as a high probability of getting them back on track. And then, but if the I was just looking at a tape this morning where sifting and sorting, you know, I had a bunch of vacant and a bunch of occupied. I'm going after the occupied first. And then I was talking to the guy selling the tape. I said on these vacant ones, I'm going to, be pretty low on it because I'm going to have to 100% foreclose on these things, so because you can't go, if it's gone, if nobody's living in it, you can't get them back on track. They've already made the decision to walk away.
Yeah, and from my perspective, there's a pro and con to both sides of it. If it's vacant, it can be trashed, right?
Yeah.
But you could get a deed in the loop pretty easily. Usually, if it's occupied, they usually can modify and work things out, but they can fight you in the foreclosure too. So there's definitely a two-edged sword on either side.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned this before, and I don't see anyone asking it. Do you primarily buy first, or are you buying seconds as well?
No, I just buy first mortgages. Yeah, I just buy first mortgages. I don't do seconds. I got a buddy that buys second mortgages. So whenever, like a second comes up, I'll refer them over to him. But I'm strictly first
How
mortgages.
about land contracts or reverse mortgages? Are you looking at those kind of things?
I do. Yeah. And that's the thing with the land contracts on the modification, typically, because your name is on the deed on the land contract. I personally I do buy them, but I don't like it. And so anytime I get a chance to modify it, I'll turn it into a mortgage and get my company name off that deed, because I don't want to be
Don't want to own anything.
I don't want to own anything anymore.
I get it. So we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but where do you see this market heading? Like, where are we going?
Well, we were talking earlier. I see foreclosures definitely, rising up. I see a lot of, people being laid off, and, with the more people being laid off because of the economy. And, with that, people are going to be we're going to be more foreclosures. So there's going to be, an opportunity where we as note investors, we can come in. And that's why I love this, because it's like, I'm able to make money on it, but I'm also going in with the mindset of being able to help the people that want to be helped, that, that have it, that maybe something happened. They didn't really, if they did lose their job, but they were able to get back on track, get another job and make these payments again, that you can 100% help people like that. Absolutely. And that's why I love it. But yeah, I definitely see the foreclosures definitely ramping up this year.
Yeah, me too. We'll see what happens.
I'm seeing it too. I know that some of the things are kind of slurred and slow down. Our borrowers are not paying exactly on time. Trying to see that little trend. Keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens. I know that over the last 2 years, we significantly higher performing than we expected. It's been an amazing ride. But all rides, all situations hit and hose. So I think the cycle of that is going to come to an end quickly. And we'll see where the next tide goes. We just have to be very flexible. I appreciate you, Larry, joining us. I know that some of the people here have been real fortunate and they see your posts. Check a look at it on LinkedIn. Larry's on there. Larry's on Facebook, and he's doing some really cool stuff. So if you just want to pick his brain, ask questions, I did put it in the comments, the webinar link form. So if you want to fill it out, I can share you Larry's information.
Okay.
But definitely reach out to him if you're looking for information, or if you have an asset that you're looking to sell, reach out to Larry and see if you can make a deal happen.
Awesome.
Thank you everyone for joining in, and we'll see you guys soon. I think next one we'll be talking about is March 3rd. I think we are. Yeah. We'll be talking wraps and legal stuff and origination, but also buying them, which is going to be killer for the year. So enjoy, everyone.